Greetings again, everyone. We're now at the portion where we invite and say thank you and our gratitude to our keynote speaker, Teo Aluko. He was born in Ibadan, Nigeria, and arrived in England aged 16. He settled in Liverpool, where he practiced as an architect for 15 years. I could build my house in Jamaica, not sure. Sorry. Anyway, but has since become a playwright, actor, singer. He has written and performed 3 one-man plays called Mr. Robeson, Just an Ordinary Lawyer, and Coleridge Taylor of Freetown. He has performed in the USA, Canada, UK, Ireland, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Australia, and New Zealand. He has also devised a tribute to African-American writer Langston Hughes titled What Happens?, performed with a jazz band. He wrote and produced an audio play called Paul Robeson's Love Song, and he contributed an essay to the BBC Radio 3 series, Paul Robeson's 5 Songs. Most of his works are available online. His poem, Greatness, A Time of COVID, places the pandemic in the context of colonialism and migration, and pays tribute to essential workers from around the world. It has been developed into a video project titled Mapping Greatness, in which people of the global majority perform it in various languages. He continues to make art, which demonstrates how Black history is everybody's history and is a history of resistance, resilience, and resurgence. While in Nigeria, Teo went out of his way to meet with GAC members in order to help and advise Oleyemi and his comrade. Teo is a father to 1 daughter and a grandfather of twin grandsons. Once again, please welcome. He has the rest of his bio that he can give you at some other stage, but please be upstanding for Teo Aluko.
It is well for us, oh brothers, that you came so far to see us. Greetings.
Greetings.
That is from those words. Next one. Those words were written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, a white man in the 1850s. Next. And that is something called The Song of Hiawatha. Why am I singing that to you? Something written by a white man about Native Americans or indigenous Americans. And that is because of the next person, Samuel Coleridge Taylor, who turned those words into a great cantata called Scenes from the Song of Hiawatha, a very, very, very famous classical work that was very popular in this country and around the world, actually, in the English-speaking world for several decades. He was born in 1875 and died in 1912, only at the age of 37. And why is that important today? That's because in the same Hiawatha work by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, he told a story. This white American had collected lots of stories from the Ojibwe people, Native Americans, and other Native American tribes, and talked. In the last part of it, there was a person saying, I have had this vision of the white man coming, and we know how it ends. Genocide.
Yes.
Genocide of the indigenous American people. So that brings us to this century. And why should I, as an African, be so concerned about the genocide that's going on today in Palestine? And I will give you the words of Paul Robeson. who was here in June 1937, which happened to be when the Spanish Civil War was going on. And on the left, you see that there was a scheduled big concert at the Royal Albert Hall. And he wasn't supposed to attend. He was going to send a recording speech, but he actually decided to fly in because he considered it so important. And he said this from stage: "I am deeply happy to be joining with you in this appeal for the greatest cause which faces the world today. The challenge must be taken up. Fascism is no respecter of persons. It makes no distinction between combatants and non-combatants. The blood-soaked streets of Guernica are proof of that, as are the concentration camps full of artists and scientists. But the liberation of Spain from the oppression of fascist reactionaries is not a private matter of the Spaniards, but the common cause of all advanced and progressive peoples. The artist must take sides. He must elect to fight for freedom or slavery. I have made my choice. I had no alternative." Now, those words, "I have made my choice, I had no alternative," are actually his epitaph. They're inscribed on his grave in New York State. And that's a picture of Paul Robeson in Spain during the Spanish Civil War. So if Paul Robeson, an African American, would go to London to stand up and speak and lend his talent to the people of Spain, I think it is within my right, or I take that inspiration to do what I did, next slide please, and to fight for Palestine. And you see there a picture of me being arrested by the police in Leicester, I think it was, about 3 years ago.
In Leicester, did you say?
Yes.
Oh, Leicester.
Yes. So it's some people will still ask. Next slide, please. Isn't there also civil wars going on in Congo, Sudan, or the next one in Sudan? And I say yes. And why am I not fighting for that? Why am I not getting arrested for that? Well, in theory, those things are happening right now and continue because of the weakness, ineffectiveness, some would even say uselessness of the African Union. So, if we go to the next slide, we see that right from the time of the setting up of what Nkrumah wanted to be the African Union, what he saw as the African Union, the Europeans and the Americans divided us. So we have on one hand the Casablanca group, and on the next slide, I don't know I'm not sure about the accuracy of these pictures, whether they're mixed, but they divided the African leaders in the Casablanca group and the Monrovia group, some who wanted African Union and full agency immediately, others who wanted to wait for the Europeans to sort of give them time to achieve what they needed to achieve. That's since 1963, and we're now in 2025, and we still have the same problem. If we fast forward to today and go to the next slide, we have the Alliance of Sahel States, the leaders of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, sorry. Trying to get the rest of Africa to join this new force to stand up to the Europeans, kick them out from our countries, and use our resources for ourselves. But what do we have instead? How many people are joining us? Next slide shows my president of Nigeria, Tinubu.
Selling out the Ongoni people, yeah.
The next slide. Fire of Senegal. So we are suffering exactly the same thing that's been happening for 60 odd years, more so. And then the next slide, talking about the genocide that's going on.
Ethiopia.
No, it's not.
Paul Kagame. Now that's not just Paul Kagame. That is Paul Kagame giving a speech to APAC. APAC is the lobby group that buys up the entire United States government and makes them do their bidding. What is Kagame doing speaking to them? He's been to Israel several times and meets with Netanyahu and all that. I don't know what arrangement they've got going on, but it doesn't look good to me. And who's Paul Kagame's good friend? Next slide.
Oh,
Tony Blair.
Tony Blair.
And what's Tony Blair been in the news for recently? Next slide.
Trump next year.
So they are there to reap the spoils from Gaza. That's what they are planning to do. Tony Blair, a Labour, allegedly, supposedly Labour leader, precursor of the current Labour leader. So in the current Labour government, the foreign secretary is this next one.
Yeah.
A lot of us will be proud to have a black man holding such high office.
A what man?
A black man holding such high office. But unfortunately, he is a perfect illustration of the fact, what is it they say? Skin folk and kin folk. Right. So, right here in this country that I live in, I've got this person that is within reach, that my actions can hopefully reach, even if it's just going out and holding a sign saying, I am Palestine Action, I support Palestine Action, and there's something I can do. So I'm back to Palestine, and then it was Madiba who said, we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinian people. Now, if Madiba can speak like that, let's actually have another example of somebody who goes out of the race and religion and whatever they were born into and fights for other people. So this next woman is called Marika Sherwood. Some people would have heard of her, maybe somebody online would have. She was born in Hungary in 1937, I think, and she died in January this year. She and her family escaped the Holocaust when she was about 10 and ended up in Australia. And to cut a very long story short, Marika ended up being a world expert in African history. By a strange amount of coincidences, she read a paper when she was studying in Australia at a university, and gave it to a friend who was a lawyer, said, what do you think of this? And what he said was, this is the description of the most sophisticated legal system I have ever read. More sophisticated even than the British legal system that we use here in Australia. And that was a description of the legal system in Kano, northern Nigeria. And when she read that and learned that, she then realized that this racism thing is just ridiculous. And she began to study African history and wrote, I don't remember how many books and articles, but dozens and dozens. And she organized conferences and all that, so many things. So I had the privilege of interviewing her a year before she died, and I've made a documentary about her. So this is a woman who devoted her life to African history, despite having been born white and Jewish. So she is the kind of person that the Zionists would call the wrong sort of Jew.
Yeah.
Because she was definitely anti-Zionist, and she said anti-Israel. The next photograph was taken by her granddaughter on a visit to Budapest, where Marika was born. So she went with Marika and took this lovely picture, which is Marika standing at a monument. I forget the name, the Monument of Shoes or something. And during the Holocaust, a lot of people were marched to the Danube, told to take their shoes off and shot from behind so their bodies fell into the water. And here is Marika, decades later, making a pilgrimage to this very site to lament the passing of all those ancestors. And you will note that she's wearing an African fabric.
Yes.
So in this picture, you have a Jewish woman lamenting the passing, the extermination of her people at their point of extermination. And I've written an article recently in tribute to her that she's lamenting those people in the same way as she lamented the African souls that were transported down similar rivers out of their continent, also decades ago. So we have, you don't have to be black to fight for black. You don't have to be Palestinian to fight for the Palestinian cause. You don't have to be Spanish, like Paul Robeson did, to fight for the Spanish cause. It's all humanity. And it's the kind of thing that I have tried to do in my work as a playwright, poet, actor, whatever, to tell these kinds of stories. I call Mr. Robeson just an ordinary lawyer. And the most recent play that I have written is called Coleridge Taylor of Freetown, inspired by the life of Samuel Coleridge Taylor. You will notice the belt of bullets on the bottom. And that's because I had the idea of writing about Coleridge Taylor for many years, but there was one big problem. I couldn't play him because he died at the age of 37. I'm now officially an elder. He was dual heritage. He had a big afro. So I failed at every part. But I had this hunch that I would want to write it I would set the play in Sierra Leone. And I decided to set it during the Civil War, because Sierra Leone is where his father came from, Daniel Peter Hughes Taylor. Freetown, and he was Creole. And in deciding that and in doing my research, the figure, this man just kept coming up. Next slide. Siaka Probin Stevens, the archetypal African dictator from the 60s through to the 50s through to the late 70s, I think. Somebody I discovered was actually engineered into position by the departing British. So this kind of story helps us understand why Africa and African peoples are not achieving the way we should have by now, because going back however many decades, at the end of slavery, at the end of colonization, etc., structures are put in place to keep us divided, uneducated, etc., etc. So I premiered Coleridge Taylor of Freetown in May last year. It so happens that this year is the 150th anniversary of his birth. So I wanted to do something big or something meaningful. And I decided to have a festival in which I would invite people to come and play his music, organize a choir, organize an orchestra. I would perform my play in the middle of all that. And I had it all worked out, starting at 2 p.m., ending at about 10 p.m. on the day. I applied to Arts Council England and Heritage Lottery Fund for funding. And one of the things I said in my applications was, we go to the next slide, other people are commemorating the 150th anniversary of Coleridge Taylor's birth, which is great, including the Three Choirs Festival in Hereford, which Coleridge Taylor was a big star at. Many of his works were premiered over there and he adjudicated there and so on. So it is very fitting that the Three Choirs Festival commemorates Coleridge Taylor with one of his major works, The Atonement, for orchestra and choir. But look at the picture of who's taking part.
They're all black.
So I said this in my application to the Arts Heritage Lottery Fund and Arts Council. That is very nice of them to do this, but people need to see black people doing this stuff. If it was somebody black organizing it, this kind of picture wouldn't come, wouldn't happen. So give me the money, let me do it. I was turned down by Heritage Lottery Fund and by Arts Council. Heritage Lottery said, actually, please don't apply again for this project. Arts Council said, it's a very good idea, but we have worries, but come back next year. Yeah. Anyway, so am I going to wait till next year?
No.
No.
Not again.
So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it anyway. But of course, it's going to be much, much smaller. One of the things I wanted was, so there was going to be choir, orchestra, and then I invited various ensembles, soloists, quartet, whatever. Just tell me what you want to do and I'll make some space for it. It's going to be much, much smaller now. And I contacted bands, orchestras, choirs all over the Northwest, some in London. And one got back to me, the next one.
Oh no.
Bess is of the something band in Manchester. They said the wind band. I don't think it necessarily minus, but they said we're really interested. Ours is the oldest brass band in the country. It's formed in 1818. And we believe that in the 1910s or early 1900s, our band played arrangements of Samuel Coleridge Taylor. We'd love to be involved. I said, that's great. Have you got anybody black? I said, no. I said, we're very ashamed to say that. I regret that.
They always say
but what we will do, we know a black conductor in the brass band industry. We will ask him if he will come and conduct us. He's interested. I got an email a few days ago saying we found a black bass trombone or bass something player. We'll bring him along too. Can we come? Of course you can come. So the festival is going on October 11th, and the next slide shows that. Basically, I'm just saying, just come along and play. There's a call for musicians. This is where it's happening. The play is happening. And why am I telling you all this? I'm not coming here to sort of expecting classical musicians to be here to come and play. But the point is, this is the kind of thing that being a Pan-Africanist, learning the history of Pan-Africanism, including the fact that I left out that Samuel Coleridge Taylor, who was born in 1875, was present at the first ever Pan-African Conference in London in July 1900. And I put that fact in my play. I play his nephew, George Coleridge Taylor, who was a diplomat, imagining, touring the world, singing his uncle's songs. Really, he does that as a diversion from the situation that he finds himself in, caught up in the Civil War in Fura Bay College in Freetown, and the horrible things happening during the war. And the way he sort of diverts his attention is he imagines himself in singing a song in concert at the other end of the world. So that kind of history of figures of African descent fighting for African unity, even as far back as 1900. Coleridge Taylor was only 23 when that conference happened. It is understood that 2 of his songs were performed at that first conference at which Du Bois was present. So this kind of resistance to an African person trying to tell an African story from the funders, is the kind of thing that they expect us to fail. If you don't give you the carrots, then you can't do anything. But I would argue that it is a kind of thing that Traore and his colleagues are saying, that we don't want your money, we're going to do it our way.
That's right.
And that is why the Coleridge Taylor Day Festival is happening with so many white people who can tell our stories with respect, in solidarity. As I believe this chairman of this Besses of the Barn band has come, I approached him. He said, to our shame, we don't have this, but we will do something about it. And so I just want to commend the Global African Congress for all the work that they do. Thank you for welcoming into the Congress as a member and an immediate elder. And I shall stand by the pledge to promote the Global African Congress by any means necessary. Thank you very much.
Yeah!